Good, happy Monday evening, January 27, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Monday evening, so let's begin. First up, GOP defends Trump as Bolton book adds pressure for witnesses. Let's take a listen to that video from WHDH 7 News.
Lawyers making their case, saying the president didn't do anything wrong. And this comes as Democrats are demanding testimony from a former national security advisor. So it's Dan Housley, live for us right there in Washington, D.C. to bring us up to speed today. Dan?
Well, Jenny, the president's legal team picked up where they left off Saturday after an abbreviated session. They haven't indicated how long they're going to go, but it seems like there's almost as much happening outside the Senate well as inside.
Impeachment is hell, or at least presidential impeachment is hell.
President Trump's legal team picks up his defense, but under a cloud of new pressure to include bombshell claims from the president's former national security advisor in a yet-to-be-published book.
I think this is a game changer.
The New York Times reports that John Bolton, in the draft of his book offered to the White House for review, says that personal political needs were at the center of President Trump's withholding of aid to Ukraine. Bolton claims President Trump told him in August they should continue to hold nearly $400 million in military aid to Ukraine until officials there help with investigations into Democrats, including the Bidens. President Trump denies Bolton's claims, tweeting, "If John Bolton said this, it was only to sell a book."
I have not seen a manuscript. I guess he's writing a book. I have not seen it.
Democratic House managers say Bolton must be called as a witness in the impeachment trial now.
Senators should not wait until March 17 when the book comes out. They should demand this information while it would still be pertinent to their decision.
Many Republicans refuse to make a decision yet.
Let's go through phase one, then we'll take that vote, and we'll have that discussion, make that determination.
Do you want to hear from John Bolton at all?
After this report.
I don't think we need to, but that's just, I'm going to listen to the rest of the case and make that decision.
Why did you want to hear from Bolton?
I didn't say I didn't want to.
But at least two moderate Republicans, Senator Susan Collins and Senator Mitt Romney, say they want to hear from Bolton.
I can't begin to tell you how John Bolton's testimony would ultimately play on a final decision, but it's relevant, and therefore I'd like to hear it.
The president's defense team ignored the Bolton news in their Senate arguments Monday, but did insist whatever President Trump did was simply a use and not abuse of the power of the office.
It is not an impeachable offense for the President of the United States to defend the asserted legal and constitutional prerogatives of the presidency.
We've yet to hear from Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz. At some point, he is expected to argue about whether the charges from the House managers fit under the Founding Fathers' version of impeachment. We're live on Capitol Hill. Dan Housley, 7 News.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And, the impeachment trial is still happening right now on Capitol Hill. Let's listen in to some of it right now.
On the call, there were other people taking notes, and obviously the president was aware of that fact. The House managers talk about the fact that the president did not follow the approved talking points, as if the president, any president, is obligated to follow approved talking points. And the last time I checked, and I think this is clear to the American people, President Trump knows how to speak his mind. But remember the fake transcript that Manager Schiff read when he was before the intelligence?
Okay, and if you want to watch the breaking news, President Donald Trump's legal team continues its opening arguments as the Senate impeachment trial is roiled by a report about John Bolton's draft. If you want to watch this coverage, You can just go to the Riley King Network Facebook page and you will find this video on our page, or you can go to the ABC News Live Facebook page and find the video there as well. And we're following some more breaking news. 2 people in New Hampshire isolated undergoing tests for coronavirus. Health officials say 2 developed symptoms after recent travel to Wuhan City. 2 people in New Hampshire recently traveled to the Chinese city at the center of the deadly coronavirus outbreak and are being monitored, health officials said. Officials with the State Department of Health and Human Services said 2 people developed respiratory symptoms and are undergoing testing for novel coronavirus, which has sickened thousands and killed at least 80 people in China. Health officials said the 2 people have mild symptoms but are remaining isolated until test results are available. Officials said samples have been sent to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention for testing. Officials said if the tests come back positive, they will share that information with the public. 5 coronavirus infections have been confirmed in 4 U.S. states, officials said. More than 100 other people in the U.S. are being tested. Reported symptoms of novel coronavirus include fever, cough, and difficult breathing. There are no vaccines available to protect against infection. Health officials said it's still unknown how easily the virus spreads, but it has been confirmed to spread person to person. The CDC recommends taking precaution measures similar to those for flu prevention, including frequent hand washing with soap and water, avoid sick people, staying home if you are sick, covering your nose and mouth when sneezing or coughing, and cleaning and disinfecting surfaces and objects that might be contaminated with germs. Those steps can help prevent infections from many different viruses circulating this time of year. Man accused of shooting, killing taxi driver arraigned in Massachusetts. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
Cold and harsh conditions can make your winters brutal.
Good afternoon, Mike. 25-year-old Luis Polanco is accused of murder, but we never saw his face in court today. Instead, he remained behind a door. The defense telling the judge that there were identification problems. Now, the murder happened just before the start of the new year at an apartment complex on Summer Street in Lawrence, Massachusetts. 35-year-old Wilson Javier of Salem, New Hampshire, was found suffering from a gunshot wound at that Summer Street apartment complex. Javier would die later at a hospital. Now, Javier worked as a driver for Liberty Taxi. Luis Polanco surrendered to police in New York City about 3 weeks ago, was arraigned there, and then just moments ago, as we said, his arraignment took place here. His order held without bail. His next court appearance is scheduled for March 5th. Reporting live, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Civil engineers get engaged atop Memorial Bridge. Couple met as civil engineering students at UNH. New Hampshire DOT officials say. Let's take a listen to that video from WR News 9.
Cold and harsh conditions can make your winters brutal.
Well, a proposal with a view. Love was in the air this weekend. Look at this. Dan and Julia met as civil engineering students at UNH. They both share a love of the Memorial Bridge in Portsmouth and each worked on various projects across the state. NHDOT was happy to host this surprise here. And by the way, she said yes.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Very cool indeed. Serious injuries reported in multiple snowmobile crashes over the weekend in New Hampshire. Fish and Game officers responded to crashes in Berlin, Colebrook, and Rochester. Let's take a listen to that video from WR News 9.
Cold and harsh conditions can make your winters brutal.
New Hampshire Fish and Game responded to several snowmobile crashes over the weekend. One man from Dorchester, Massachusetts, was seriously injured when he collided with another snowmobile in Berlin. A man from Milton was also seriously injured when he fell off his snowmobile in Colebrook. And a 12-year-old boy seriously injured his leg after his snowmobile went off a trail and into a tree in Rochester.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Organizers create shirts to benefit fallen officers' family. Let's take a listen to that video from WR News 9.
Cold and harsh conditions can make your winters brutal.
An organization that supports fallen first responders is helping to raise money for Officer Thine. The Honor a Hero project creates custom shirts with the officer's name and badge number. Proceeds from this shirt will be donated to the Newport News Police Foundations to be given to Officer Thine's family.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Monday evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you for this Monday evening. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the red and went down. Your Nasdaq closed in the red and went down. S&P 500 closed in the red and went down. Gold closed in the green and went up. Oil closed in the red and went down. US 10-year closed flat. Euro/USD closed flat. And VIX closed in the green and went up. Dow posts worst day since October and turns negative for the year as coronavirus fears grow. Stocks tanked on Monday after more cases of the coronavirus were confirmed over the weekend, reaching up worries over the virus impact on the world economy. Race to contain deadly coronavirus with 5 confirmed U.S. cases. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Bring a we're going to turn to the breaking news on the race to contain the deadly coronavirus. 5 cases now confirmed here in the U.S. At least 80 people have died. More than 2,800 have been infected. Global financial markets rocked overnight by the spread of the virus. Our senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is in Hong Kong, where officials have declared a state of emergency. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, George. That's right. A medical emergency here where the numbers are rising. All schools now shut until mid-February. And the death toll in China jumping overnight to more than 80, with those infected now heading towards 3,000. In the US, 2 more cases confirmed. Another one in California, the other in Arizona, bringing the total to 5, with the CDC now warning us to expect that number will rise. But it's in China that it's by far the worst. The country now rushing to build 2 new hospitals in a matter of days. The mayor of Wuhan, where the outbreak started, offering to resign and admitting there was a delay in releasing information, saying he was waiting for approval from Beijing. As many as 1,000 or so US citizens are believed to be still trapped in the area, with urgent efforts now underway to try to evacuate them from Wuhan. Guys?
Thanks, Ian Pannell, for that. We'll have more on the effort to contain the virus in our second hour.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Monday evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Good night and bye, everyone.